In the early years of the Cold War, Britain found itself facing a serious threat. The Soviet Union was rapidly developing long-range bombers capable of reaching the British mainland. These bombers carried devastating nuclear bombs that, if unleashed, could destroy entire cities in minutes. The British Royal Air Force knew they had to act quickly, so to counter this, they sought out to build something that had never existed before. A fast and powerful aircraft that could intercept and destroy these Soviet bombers before they reached their targets. That plane was known as the English Electric Lightning. The English Electric Lightning was a marvel of engineering, capable of flying at over twice the speed of sound. On August 13, 1956, it became the first British aircraft to break the sound barrier during a vertical climb, a feat that left the entire aviation world in awe. Pilots who flew the Lightning often described the experience as being strapped to a rocket, largely due to how the plane shot into the sky with an unmatched sense of power and speed. But building a plane capable of such remarkable feats was no easy task, and the British Royal Air Force knew, for this ambitious dream to become reality, they needed to find the right partner. The British government turned to English Electric, the company behind the highly successful Canberra bomber. Except this time, the challenge was completely different. They needed to build a supersonic interceptor capable of defending Britain against Soviet bombers. The RAF wasn't just asking for an aircraft that could fly faster than the speed of sound. The plane had to climb to altitudes where Soviet bombers roamed, and its design needed to push the boundaries of what was possible in aviation. It was a daunting task, but the engineers at English Electric were no strangers to overcoming such challenges. And so, a team of visionary engineers led by chief designer W.E.W. Petter was assembled to lead this ambitious project. At first, the engineers faced significant obstacles. While technology was rapidly advancing, it wasn't progressing fast enough to meet the RAF's needs. They needed to create a plane that could fly faster, climb higher, and respond quicker than any Soviet bomber. But how are they going to achieve this with the technological limits of the time? The answer to that lay in a radical new design that would forever change the course of aviation forever. One of the biggest challenges the engineers at English Electric faced was the need for incredible speed. By 1952, it was no longer enough for planes to fly at subsonic speeds. The English Electric engineers knew that their aircraft had to break the sound barrier and go beyond it. To make that possible, they came up with a highly unusual design. Instead of the typical side-by-side engine layout used in most planes, they developed a twin engine configuration where one engine was stacked on top of the other. This allowed the plane to reach incredibly high speeds without increasing the size of the aircraft. The plane also needed to slice through the air with as little resistance as possible, so they opted for swept-back wings for the aircraft. Unlike conventional wings that extend straight out, swept-back wings angle backward, helping to manage airflow more efficiently at high speeds. This design enabled the aircraft to cut through the air like a knife, reducing drag and boosting speed. However, creating a plane that could fly faster than the speed of sound also came with its own set of challenges, one of which was heat. You see, the faster a plane flies, the more heat it generates. This becomes not just uncomfortable for the pilot, but it can also damage the engine and the aircraft's outer surface. To prevent this from happening, the English Electric had to find new materials and effective cooling techniques to protect the plane from the extreme heat that would come with supersonic speeds. It was a delicate balance of pushing the plane's performance to the limit without compromising safety. After years of hard work, overcoming one challenge after another, the English Electric Lightning was finally ready in 1954. The result was a plane like no other, an interceptor that could climb faster and fly higher than anything the world had seen before. Its purpose was simple: protect Britain by intercepting enemy bombers before they could do any damage. The first prototype of the English Electric Lightning flew in 1954, before entering service 6 years later in 1960. The Lightning was a marvel of engineering. It could reach speeds of up to Mach 2.27, which was more than twice the speed of sound. To give you some perspective, most modern commercial airplanes fly at around 500 miles per hour. The Lightning, on the other hand, was capable of flying over 1,500 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest aircraft in the world at the time. But its speed wasn't the only impressive feature. The Lightning could reach altitudes of over 50,000 feet, which is roughly twice the altitude at which commercial planes fly. This was a crucial advantage because many Soviet bombers flew at high altitudes, and the Lightning needed to be able to intercept them as quickly as possible. The plane's ability to climb rapidly to such heights made it a formidable interceptor. In fact, the Lightning could reach 36,000 feet in just under 3 minutes, giving it the ability to respond to threats almost instantly. Powering this incredible machine were 2 Rolls-Royce Avon turbojet engines, which provided the necessary thrust for supersonic flight. The unique, stacked configuration of these engines, one mounted above the other, provided the plane with the thrust it needed to break through the sound barrier and soar higher than its competitors. These engines were powerful, but they were also fuel-hungry, which would later prove to be one of the plane's few weaknesses. The Lightning's armament included 2 air-to-air missiles, which were guided weapons designed to destroy enemy aircraft, as well as 2 30mm ADEN cannons, which were powerful guns that could fire rapid bursts of ammunition at close-range targets. Together, these weapons made the Lightning a powerful tool for engaging enemy bombers. But like all great machines, the Lightning had its limitations. While it excelled in speed and altitude, its engines consumed fuel at an alarming rate, meaning the plane had a relatively short range of just 800 miles. Although it could climb faster and fly higher than anything else, it couldn't stay in the air for long periods. Mid-air refueling was often necessary, which complicated missions and made the Lightning reliant on support from other aircraft. Still, this was a trade-off the engineers were willing to make to achieve the Lightning's phenomenal speed. Once the Lightning entered service with the RAF, it quickly proved itself to be a game-changer. Pilots who flew the Lightning spoke highly of its speed and power. One of the most famous pilots to fly the Lightning was Wing Commander Roland B. Beaumont, a legendary test pilot and war hero. Beaumont was one of the first to push the Lightning to its limits during its developmental phase, testing its capabilities at extreme speeds and altitudes. He once said, "It was the fastest aircraft I ever flew, and yet it handled beautifully. It felt like you were ahead of the plane even at Mach 2. Beaumont's words reflected the Lightning's unique blend of power and precision, an aircraft that was both incredibly fast and highly controllable. Another pilot, John Spencer, shared similar sentiments. He described flying the Lightning as like being strapped to a rocket. Spencer's quote perfectly captures the raw power and thrill that came with flying such an advanced aircraft. The Lightning went on to set several world records for speed and altitude, further cementing its status as one of the most capable interceptors of its time. It became the backbone of the RAF's air defense during the Cold War, acting as a symbol of Britain's ability to innovate and defend itself in the skies. But while the Lightning was undeniably fast, it never saw combat in the traditional sense. Perhaps that's because it wasn't designed to be a fighter jet that engaged in dogfights with enemy planes. Instead, the Lightning's role was to act as a deterrent, standing guard over British airspace during the tense years of the Cold War. While it never saw combat in the traditional sense, the Lightning's very presence acted as a deterrent, sending a clear message to potential adversaries that British airspace was well defended. Despite its many successes, the Lightning's operational life was not without challenges. The aircraft's short range and high fuel consumption limited its effectiveness on longer missions. In addition to this, the Lightning was expensive to maintain. The plane's engines and systems required constant upkeep to keep it in peak condition, which made it costly for the RAF to operate over the long term. Perhaps the biggest challenge facing the Lightning came from the advancements in missile technology. As intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, became more common, the role of interceptors like the Lightning began to diminish. ICBMs could be launched from thousands of miles away and strike their targets with incredible accuracy, reducing the need for manned interceptors to defend against bombers. Additionally, the advancements in Soviet air defenses meant that the high-altitude missions the Lightning excelled at were becoming less effective. Military planners were shifting their focus to low-altitude missions, where planes could avoid radar detection. And because of this, the Lightning, which had been optimized for high-altitude flight, became unsuitable for this new style of warfare. By the late 1960s, it was clear that the Lightning's time in service was coming to an end. Although it had served Britain well, the world of military aviation was evolving, and newer, more versatile aircraft were needed. The RAF began phasing out the Lightning, and by the late 1980s, the last of the Lightnings were retired from service. By the time the last Lightning was retired in the late 1980s, it had left an indelible mark on aviation history. The English Electric Lightning may have had a relatively short operational life, but its legacy lives on. It was a plane that pushed the limits of what was possible in aviation, proving that supersonic interceptors could be built and flown successfully. The Lightning's raw speed, climb rate, and power made it a legend among the pilots who flew it and the engineers who designed it. In the end, the Lightning was a symbol of British ingenuity and determination during a time when the threat of nuclear conflict was all too real. It overachieved in many ways, setting records and securing its place as one of the fastest interceptors of its era. And even though the Lightning never saw combat, it fulfilled its mission, which was to defend Britain's airspace with unmatched speed and precision. The English Electric Lightning may no longer be in service, but its story continues to inspire aviation enthusiasts and engineers alike. It remains a testament to the heights that can be reached when innovation, determination, and a need for speed come together. The Lightning wasn't just a plane, it was a supersonic legend.